Dead there, living here. Oma, a young lady from Onitsha, a small village in the western part of Africa, lost both her parents in a car accident when she was 6. She stayed with her aunt in Lagos and started learning a skill, hairdressing, at the age of 12. While in her aunt's house, she did not go to school. Instead, she was always at home running errands and taking care of both her older and younger cousins before she started going to a salon to learn hairdressing. The owner of the salon was the one who asked her to come and learn for free because her aunt was just using her and did not care about what she wanted to do with her life. When Oma turned 18 one evening, an argument arose between her and her elder cousin sister, Chizu. Chizu was fond of placing the hot plate of the electric iron she was using to iron her clothes on the cloth to get something in the next room, without caring to turn off the switch or keep it away from the cloth. That very evening, Chizu repeated the same mistake in front of Oma. Oma did not find it funny and corrected her by just showing her the right way to handle a hot iron. But Chizu slapped Oma. When Oma's aunt returned that evening, Chizu told her mom everything that had happened. Oma's aunt got angry and questioned Oma, asking who gave her the right to correct her daughter, someone who was older than her. Oma's aunt threw Oma out and warned her never to come inside her house that night again. Oma's aunt's husband is a very handsome, fair and tall man. When Oma's aunt newly got married to her husband, they were poor. They gave birth to their 6 children while still poor and struggling to survive. The husband to Oma's aunt was just poor, but he caught the eyes of many rich women, both old and young. Most of the rich old women offered him money to become their boy, but he rejected the offers until he started following bad friends who influenced him into accepting the rich old women's offer and opens his eyes to the fact that his wife is lazy, though his wife is a cleaner in a primary school and doesn't have the sense to refuse to do what some other women are doing. So the husband to Oma's aunt abandoned his kids and wife when the eldest of his kids was 12 for the sake of chasing fame and money. Oma's aunt was traumatized by the events to date. She struggled alone in grief to train her children. Her experience in life has made her heartless, feeling like nobody cares about her, so she should not care about anybody apart from herself and her children. That very night, Oma's aunt threw her out of the house. Oma had nowhere to go. Her madam's house was very far from her aunt's house, so she spent the night outside. 3 weeks after the incident, on a Sunday afternoon, Oma was doing laundry as it was a work-free day. 10 minutes into the laundry, Oma started vomiting and became weak. Her aunt saw what happened because she was passing through the balcony when Oma was vomiting. As an observant woman, she sensed that Oma might be pregnant, but the question was who impregnated Oma since she was not yet married. She was not sure of her eyes, so she called Oma and asked her the last time she saw her period. And it happened that the time Oma was supposed to see her period had passed. Oma's aunt asked Oma to go and get a pregnancy test strip at a nearby drugstore. When Oma got the strip and was tested, the results came out positive. That very Sunday was a quiet one for everyone in the house, as both Oma and her aunt were confused. Oma's aunt could not imagine herself taking care of a baby, so she threw Oma out of the house that night and asked her never to return to the house since she was so shameless. Oma stayed outside the gates crying her eyes out. While she was crying, a man named Ugo was passing by to his house when he saw Oma crying outside. He stepped down from his car, walked towards Oma and asked her why she was crying. Oma told him that her aunt had chased her out of the house and asked her never to return again. Since it was already late, Ugo saw asking Oma too many questions unnecessary and took her with him. When they got to his house, he provided Oma with warm water to bathe. He was staying alone in the house. That's how Oma started living a good life she never knew wouldn't last forever. On the long run, Ugo discovered that Oma was pregnant, but he never seemed bothered about it. He took very good care of Oma until she gave birth. The night after Oma gave birth, while she was sleeping, Ugo strangled her to death and buried her in a far bush. Flashback to the first night Oma's aunt threw her out of the house. While she was sleeping on the floor outside the house after crying, Ugo was trekking down to his apartment when he saw Oma lying on the floor. Ugo had a wife named Ife with no child to call their own after 6 years in their marriage. Ugo always felt frustrated and ashamed by their not having a child, and he wouldn't want to marry another wife because he claims he is protecting his reputation, though he does worse big things in the dark. He was during the week at a company far from where he resides with his wife and stays in the one room the company gave him, returning to his wife during the weekends. Sometimes he goes to the bar along the road to Oma's aunt's house to drink himself to stupor to forget his problems. The first night he saw Oma lying down outside, he was drunk. When he approached Oma to inquire why a young girl like her was lying down outside at that hour, he lost control of himself and raped her. He threatened to kill her if she shouted during the act. Oma was traumatized by the incident but could not tell anyone about it, including her aunt, to avoid being beaten and accused of seducing the man. Little did she know that it would result in pregnancy. After burying Oma, her spirit was restless and rose. She went in human form to a place far from where people who knew her were residing. She started living a good life, had a lot of money, etc., and was waiting for the right time to strike. One fateful Sunday, Ife, Ugo's wife, took Ben, Oma's baby, whom Ugo and Ife had named, to a supermarket. Oma, knowing it was the right time to strike, also went to the supermarket. When Ife got distracted and was making a call, Oma kidnapped Ben and took him to her place. She constantly told Ben that she was his mom and narrated her story to him even though he was too young to understand. She bewitched him. 1 month after Ben's disappearance, Oma went with Ben to the same supermarket she had picked him from. Ugo was also in the same supermarket. Ugo was able to recognize Ben from behind and shouted his name. Both Oma and Ben turned at the same time to see who was calling. When Ugo saw Oma, he startled and asked her in a mean voice to give him his son. Oma laughed in an evil manner and said to Ugo, "Take your son, I promise you he's going to be a thorn in your flesh," and disappeared. Ugo wondered how a 3-year-old would become a thorn in his flesh, but he discarded the thought, sighed and left with Ben. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and follow for more.